Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Christopher Kraus, your Embraer Learning and Development Specialist. Welcome to our Managing Remotely webinar series. Today's session is Being a Better Remote Leader. I'm going to introduce our guest speaker in just a minute, but first, as always, let me go through some of the housekeeping. It looks like you are all compliant. Thank you. Everyone has come on with muted microphones and disabled video. We have this second note, submitting questions through group chat. I do think that this group is small enough where we're not going to need to do that. We are going to give Alan some time to go through everything, and then we'll have time at the end for Q&A. So when that happens, I think we're comfortable enough with this smaller group where we can just take ourselves off mute. So we'll do that at that time. Just to note, this session is being recorded, and that includes our chat area. So just keeping note of that. The recording is going to be available on Empower immediately after this session. I'm going to upload it to our Empower pathway that has all of the recordings of all of our past webinars, be it Managing Remotely or the Remote Wellness series. And as always, I ask that after this webinar, you complete the survey, the post-session survey. Every one of these sessions that we have, the topic is a direct result of your feedback, and this one included. So please take a couple seconds at the end of the session and complete the survey. We'll show the QR code at the end of this one. And if you don't catch that, I will send you the link later on today. So with that, let's introduce Alan. Alan is our guest speaker for today. He's been with us a few times now. He's the owner and chief HR consultant for HR Office Savers, who's based right in the Melbourne area. More than 25 years in HR, so he knows what he's talking about. Alan, it's great to have you back here.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. Glad I'm back. Good to be here and see everybody. So today we're going to talk about anxiety, etiquette, and nonverbal communication, and being a better remote manager wrapped around these pieces. At the end, I'm also going to cover a few tips and strategies that will help you immediately as you continue to remote manage your teams. And at the very beginning, which I'm going to go to right now, we're going to recap. So as Chris mentioned, I run my own business now for going on 3 years, but I've got a significant amount of HR experience at the line level, as well as an executive and leadership level. And some of the stuff that I cover, I've learned firsthand, trial and error, and other stuff you study it through organizational development processes and trainings. So that's what this is all about, is helping you be better based on what we've learned and what doesn't work. We kind of share you with that too, if we can. But what we've covered so far in some of our sessions includes right here. So as you set up your remote team, we created these 5 processes overarching, and there's moving pieces for every group and every team. But first thing you have to do, obviously, is set up your remote team. But as you think about how to set up your remote team, you've already got a team. And in something like the coronavirus situation, we were all of a sudden thrust into a basically full-on remote situation. So set up your team, make sure they have technology capability, they understand what the technology needs to be, they know who to call, they know what the expectations are, set them up for success. You want to effectively hold remote team meetings. That's going to help you lead a good remote team. It's not that different than being in person. It's hard enough in person, but as you effectively hold your team meetings, you've got to find good times. You've got to make sure everybody's available. And with flexibility being what it is, it becomes a little bit of a moving target. Create your communication guidelines, when to have meetings, when not to have meetings, who they're meeting with. This is so important as you establish your process. Building trust is huge because you're not seeing each other every day, all day anymore. You can't just pop over into someone's cube or office, or vice versa. So you build trust through communication, through process, through ongoing reward recognition, through communication situations like this. And lastly, respect individual and personal issues. You may be dealing with this yourself, but every team member, every human being has something else going on in their lives. Do they even have an office, a home capability for setup? And what are the challenges with internet connection, people moving around inside the home for the first time ever? There might be all members of the family in the house at the same time, with at least 2 people, at least 1 or 2 trying to work. So these are the types of considerations you want to have. And when Chris posts those other webinars, you'll see some of this information more in depth. there. I'm going to go into workplace anxiety, and I find this such an important piece to really cover. We all have anxiety at some level. Some of us handle it better than others, and it's normal to feel out of place at work or remotely or in a different environment. We see it when we hire someone new internally, say, or when somebody goes to a different group, but they're still transitioning, and we kind of work through that anxiety. That's normal anxiety, but this is not normal. It's only been, what, a month and a half-ish that people have been trying to get through this, and the starts and the stops keep coming. So workplace anxiety is a thing. And as leaders, it's important that we recognize anxiety systems. Your employees may be feeling it, you may be feeling it. If you see your employees avoiding situations that are set up, maybe you do a weekly social with your team to bring everybody together at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or whatever it might be. If you see your employees' difficulty in accepting negative feedback, not that negative feedback anyone really loves hearing, but you see your team and you kind of know what they should be hearing, what they should be reacting to, and how they normally react. Maybe there's difficulty focusing on tasks separate from normal reactions or situations. If they start talking about irrational fears, we're all going to die, I can't believe this corona is not going away. You want to listen for that as a leader and do your best to address it. The more you're aware of the anxiety of your team, the more you can address it and help them to be productive at work and to manage those anxieties. There are some common anxiety triggers that I wanted to bring to your attention as you look. Things, and there's so much deeper if you're actually trained in anxiety counseling and psychoanalysis. But what this does for you is it gives you a little bit of information on what to look for. So think about the uncertainty or fear of the unknown. If you see your employees holding in their feelings, if they're afraid to speak up, public speaking, trying too hard to be perfect, these are compensation factors that you want to watch out for as a leader for your employees, maybe trying to do more than they're able to or less than they should be, especially someone who in person is able to speak clearly and openly, isn't afraid to raise their hand during a meeting. Maybe now they're not. They don't know how to deal with online meetings, or they're not comfortable in that situation. So you want to try to look for these as a leader. I also want to give you some pointers on how to deal with anxiety when you find it in your staff. So you don't want to avoid this as the discussion. You never do. I mean, if you avoid it, it just gets worse. Ignoring it simply exacerbates the anxiety. So you want to do what you can. And we're not talking about placating like children. We're talking about working with your employees so they can be more productive, so you can be more productive. Make sure they understand that barring a serious organizational mishap that would require a certain level of performance discussion, it's okay to make a mistake. We all make mistakes. I understand you missed this one meeting or you were late to this one meeting. Let's work on it. How can we help you through it? You want to be, it's a little bit even more so than if they were in person. Help them to understand that we can accept the situation and move on. Avoiding it can cause a cycle of anxiety, so we got to be careful about just brushing it off. If you can figure out what the trigger is, what started it, is it somebody's home from school now that summer's in session and it's making it harder for them to make the 8:30 meeting? Is there another situation that you can help alleviate or work with? So you want to talk to them as much as you can to understand what those situations are. And recognize the positives. Anxiety also creates more awareness. It creates a little bit of a protective circle around you delivering a better solution. It makes you more aware. So we don't want to totally sugarcoat this. There are opportunities to use anxiety for positive reasons as well. I want to move into effective work etiquette. So it's more than please and thank you. Work etiquette really has to do with how you perform on the job with civility versus uncivility, and the types of ways that you can act with your employees so they appreciate that you do understand that this is different. Now, some of you, I think, may be regular remote leaders, or your team is normally remote. So this obviously isn't so different, but it's different for the people they're working with. It's probably different for the folks that they have to connect with on a regular basis that are now in a different situation. So try to keep that in mind, that it is different. Even if it's not different, it's different. Let's talk about greetings. I see a lot of times when I go into my client sites and we talk about the employee relations piece and what's some of the reasons for unrest, it's almost always communication. And we'll talk about communication later. but it could be sometimes as simple as a greeting. We've got formal greetings, informal greetings, nonverbal greetings. Sometimes as leaders, we forget that, and this happens in the office too, when we see our employees on a regular basis, you get right to it. Let's just get right to work. I don't have time for that. Well, we always have time to say hello. It's common respect. It's civil behavior. There's never anything wrong with starting a meeting with, "Hi, everybody, how's it going?" Or "What's new?" And as you answer those questions, we don't want a full 5-minute overture on what's happening with the next door neighbor, but we certainly would like to know that everybody's okay. Are you okay? Be careful with greetings too, to make it, to not let it be uncivil in the sense that, "Hey, everybody, how you doing?" And you're looking at papers and you're not really caring. That creates the negative effect. So a real look in the camera, look at someone, not at their picture, but look in the camera and say, "Hi, Chris, how's it going? Hope your day's going well. Anything going on new that you want to share?" It's always good to have a easy conversation. And watch out for nonverbal also. Those are important, whether it's a wave or a head nod. Some of the things we might do, especially when we get back to the office and we're avoiding physical contact with handshakes and fist bumps, we have to learn what a good nonverbal greeting might be. Civility and business etiquette also includes respect. We don't have to actually like someone or even think they're a good performer to respect them. Respect is human. We should be respecting everyone. And the way you show that is through practice, through active listening. There's respecting your coworkers' property and space. Everybody has their own beliefs. And when we talk about beliefs, I'm staying away from political correctness beliefs. I'm talking about beliefs that could be as basic as how to raise a child, and there's a dog barking in the background, and some people feel that that's not appropriate to have while you're in a meeting, and other people are okay with it because we're all at home making do. So understanding that we're all in a different situation and how can we respect each other's space, and then time is such an important piece. When we're at the office, we try to respect each other's time. You should do the same in a virtual or remote meeting. If you have a meeting scheduled for 1 o'clock, and Chris has been very strong with, we start at 1, we end at 1:30, and you'll see that today. All the sessions end on time. We want to respect everyone's time. And I think that's so important as we continue to manage our remote teams. I'm going to touch on involvement. It's a very big section about being involved, employee engagement, participation in company processes. Involvement includes active participation. We make a personal investment in our time and space. We think about ourselves as this agent of change, and we really want to make things better. That's so important. We all can't be that top person that leads the team. Some of us have to be part of the team. So what else can you do as involvement? Take the initiative, be part of the solution. If you think about the stuff that your HR department has set up with the wellness sessions and the management sessions, remote leadership sessions, these are all part of being in the company and being part of the solution. So these are the types of things that you go to become better at whatever it is you want to be better at. You learn, you collaborate, be involved. It's such a big part of the whole process. I'm going to jump over to nonverbal communication. We all communicate nonverbally, whether we know it or not. The image that we project from our nonverbal communication affects the way the spoken word is. So speaking and nonverbal go hand in hand, whether it's the hand movement, and we'll cover some gestures in a minute, but it's all about understanding that there is a nonverbal communication we have. And it could be as simple as I mentioned before, looking in the camera versus at a picture. So those types of things you want to watch out for when you lead meetings as well. We all send signals to each other: body language, posture, gestures, facial expressions, hygiene and dress, how I come to these meetings, how you come to the meetings, how you show up to a staff meeting, the way that you expect your people to come to a staff meeting. That's all part of it. I know when I first started working remotely, it must have been more than 15 years ago, I had a little bit of a hard time getting used to what that meant. And it was probably a month into it that I was coached by somebody who had more experience remote working, said what he does, and I don't know what he did at the time, was he got dressed and ready for work as if it were a regular work day. And this is with or without cameras. He would get up on time, get all prepared for work, and then go to his remote desk, even if he wasn't even on the camera with anyone. And that was a real impact to me. So I do that now. Every day that I have a day job and I'm working remote, I get up, get dressed, take a shower, do everything I need to do as if I were going to the office. It really helps me get ready for the day. personal distance. I mean, what is the difference between if I get really close to the camera and really far away? You kind of think about engagement and how you're being part of the team, what you want your team to do. Same thing with you. Voice too, we'll cover that in a little bit, but voice inflection, tone, volume, that all matters. I want you all to watch out for your common gestures too. I mean, this is a list of gestures that can have all different kinds of meaning depending on what you're trying to accomplish. But the ones that really impressed me are things that we do uncommonly, like turning away. So you might notice that I'm looking at some notes while I'm talking. I might look over here, and you got to be careful about that. You want to be able to have more connection with your audience, and in your case, it's going to be your teams. My favorite common gesture is the drumming the fingers on the desk. You can't see it now because of the camera, but you drum your fingers on the desk as it implies impatience. Well, what you may not know is that gesture of drumming your fingers on the desk, even though you can't see it, if I'm doing it and I'm impatient, I'll have facial expressions that also show you that that's what I'm feeling. So you want to be careful about how you present on these remote meetings. Also, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. We've covered this before, and hopefully you all have at least a baseline idea of this, but pitch, speed, loudness, tone. The faster you talk, the less believable you are, and the less people can keep up with you. The slower you talk, people get bored. So you want to be able to talk in a way that makes sense for your audience, vary your pitch, vary your loudness, vary your speed, so that the folks that you're leading a team meeting on can be a part of the solution that can follow you through. I'm going to jump into a few slides on succeeding with a remote team. As you continue to lead your virtual teams, your remote teams, you're going to continue to run into challenges, changes. I mean, the heavy rains that we've had recently sometimes can hinder the connectivity that we have trying to get onto a Microsoft Teams or another type of meeting. You just don't know. So you want to prepare for that. You want to think about what comes. So as you continue with your remote leadership, set clear goals. This hopefully is basic, but it's not different than what you do with your regular team. What are your goals? Just lay them out, talk about what the goals are, and decide what it looks like, what success looks like. Make sure your team knows what that is. Create your standard operating procedures. You got to document them. Sometimes this comes from the top down, but sometimes teams can create their own standard operating procedures. And this could be everything from the time that a team meeting is, to the one-to-ones you're going to have with your team, to group performance sessions, trainings. These are all types of things that you want to get your team involved in so that they can be better learners and better deliverers of product while they're working remote. Build a team culture. In the office, it's a culture, how you act, how you lead, what type of structure you have. It's all cultural. Your remote team still needs a culture, and it's still a work family, and you still want to have respect, and you still want to take time to get to know your team. They are in different places. So the same person that was in the office is the same person at home office, but is in a different situation, which makes their environment different, which means that they might be a little bit different also. They're going to respond a little bit differently, act a little differently. Hopefully in the month that you've been doing this, you've seen some of those changes in your folks and you've been able to help them, coach them through it. Perhaps they're mature enough to handle it themselves, but as leaders, we have to be ready for that. We should look for that and help our team through that. Don't forget your feedback. Some say it's more important than ever when you're working remotely to provide more timely feedback. You have to be careful about jumping down someone's throat, of course, right away. If someone makes a mistake immediately and it's egregious, you got to correct it. But if there's time to let them figure it out themselves, you work through the feedback cycle. You become a good leader by understanding how that process works and promoting your team to get them better and learn more. But don't forget to provide feedback during the course of your remote leadership. It's a great tool that'll help with success. And if you can set up that schedule for it, that's even better. And that brings us to the conclusion of our presentation, and we're open for questions.
Cool. Thank you very much, Alan. Everyone, you can take the mute off of your video and go ahead. If you have any questions for Alan, go for it.
And Chris, I'll also add, if anyone has anything that they've been working on that seems to work for them that might be helpful to share with a broader audience, that's always good too.
Definitely.
Hey, how you doing? This is Jason from our service center here in Fort Lauderdale.
Hi, Jason.
Hey, so great presentation. That was a quick run through. It was nice to try to download all that information at once real fast, so it's good. I just had a question. So I'm not really particularly just recently. I have a couple scenarios where I have some work from home folks, and I'm definitely new. I would say I'm new in that field of having to manage somebody from home, right? So it's all good, interesting details, because even some of these details you could use in your day to day as well.
Right.
But I did have a question. I was just curious. What would you say to the person that, because I think of Embraer, right? And with us, we are often, many of us are, responsible for wearing many hats, right? So unfortunately, our job description goes above and beyond with many other details of things that need to get done. And sometimes the benefit that you have is to be able to walk in somebody's office to get something done, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just because of the volume of workload they have, and not answering emails or not answering phones. So if you were one of those employees that now all of a sudden abruptly are a work from home employee, what would you advise as to how would you manage your day as far as being tentative to those outside resources, but managing your workload at the same time?
Mm-hmm. So you're asking how would I coach the employee? What would I tell them to do?
So I guess my question is, a lot of times these departments and people that we work with, they're so overwhelmed that sometimes communication through emails and phones is not always possible. So, I mean, would you suggest that the work from home people, and I'm not just speaking, I guess, mainly just a time management, but how do you manage your day with your workload versus being receptive to the spur of the moment and outside the phone calls that you would need when you lose that advantage of not being able to walk into somebody's office?
Yeah, no, I love the question. And that's why we do this. And I'll tell you what's worked for me in the past, and also what I think might be a best practice, not knowing your internal workings as much as what I've worked in myself. But what really helped me at any point, if I didn't do it up front, I did it I did it as I went through it, is set up a protocol or a schedule and a process. Go back to that standard operating procedure discussion we just had, and think about, we're going to have, so if I'm an employee that needs that kind of help, I'm going to reach out to, I want my employee to reach out to me and say, I need more help. How do they get there? Through trust, learning. We got to have we have to give them the tools that they have. And that could just be as simple as time management tools to understand what their day needs to be. So I would first want to make sure we have cell phone numbers, text numbers, email addresses. If you as the manager need to give a personal email address, if that's allowed at Embraer, then you do that. But you have to give them multiple ways to contact. You also have to create for them a call sheet of the normal resources they would have if they were in the office. So if someone has a problem with their tech, they pick up the phone and press #1 and they get their tech guy. Well, now what do? They don't know what #1 is. So we need the phone number for tech. We need the phone number for human resources. We need the phone number for accounting, for payroll, whatever that might be. So I think that those are the pieces of creating that standard process with this list of people that they would, and names of people they need to reach out to.
Got it. Yeah, I think it goes back to that SOP like you're referring to, just kind of how to set up your day-to-day with written work instructions. So, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't want to oversimplify it, but at the end of the day, it really is just all the baseline processes. Because what happens is we let ourselves get crazy about it not happening, and then we overthink why. And then we end up blaming ourselves or the other person when really it's as simple, I didn't know. I've been there. I mean, you may have too as an employee. I just didn't know who to call. And sometimes it's embarrassing to pick up the phone and call the boss. So the boss needs to have these regular touch points with the employee that are just about the employee, even weekly, sometimes daily. How's it going? Do you have all the tools you need? This is all about you. This isn't about anything else except what do you need. If you do that enough times, they start trusting you enough to answer the question.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And Jace, thanks for the question. I also want to touch on, you made a really good point that I don't want to just leave out there. This is, the training is really for leaders to help with their teams, but this is for you too. Almost everyone on the call is also a subordinate to somebody else at some level. We could be on a project to somebody, we could be leading a project. So this isn't just for managers, although that's how we word it. It could be for anyone, even personal. Some of the stuff we cover, you can take home with you also, and hopefully makes you better just being home.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I'm good. I have no other questions for me.
Thank you.
Great. What other questions, comments, thoughts do you all have about the topic? All right, actually, so I know we're getting up to the time here. So Alan, if you would go to the next slide. As I said in the beginning, everybody, we really like your feedback. All the topics that we have right now are directly related to feedback we've gotten from previous sessions. So please take a minute. If you're taking 2 or 3 minutes to do this, you're doing it wrong. It's a really quick survey. With this, just grab your phone, open to your camera, and point it at your screen, and the QR code will do the rest. The survey will just pop right in and just complete it. And the last question is, what topics would you like to see in the future? If this isn't working for you, or if you don't have your phone next to you for some reason, I'm going to be sending a link to you right after this session. So I'll ask one more time. Actually, and Alan, if you would, you can go right to your next slide. Wanted to thank Alan for being here for us. It's been a great series. A lot of good information shared, and yeah. So thank you, Alan, for being here for us.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it.
Great. And we have Alan's information up here. If you ever have questions, or if you have more, you think of something afterwards, please go ahead and use his email, give him a call. He's happy to do that. And as I said in the beginning, we're going to be popping this video up onto Empower in the next hour or so. So you'll see that along with all the other webinars that we've had in the past.
Chris, just to let you know, I got a message saying that this survey is not accepting any additional responses at this time. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I actually don't really want your feedback. I just like to say that.
so good.
I got the same message. So
did you really? Okay, I'll thank you for letting me know. Glad you guys did that. I'm gonna go in and just fix it right now and make sure that it's correct. And then I'll send you the link, like I said, right afterwards. Please, guys, take a minute, do the survey. I'll make sure that it's working, and we'll go from there. But everybody have a wonderful weekend, and we hope to see you back here soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you very much.